I'm going to do a brief introduction, but think about who is sitting right here. First off, Graham Hancock, please, round of applause. Andrew Collins, right? Andrew Collins. Robert Bauval, all the way from Spain. Doctors JJ and Desiree Hertog, right there. Carl Elberger, right there. And look who's down in the end, the rock star himself, Mr. Robert Schock. Give it up. It's kind of weird how to look and think, wow, this is really going down. It is. Okay, this is the Forbidden Archaeology panel. I have interviewed and consider everybody on this panel my friend, but they are certainly who I turn to for knowledge. I thirst for this. I research this every single day. You guys know this. So I'm going to ask everybody to briefly, this is how we're going to start this out. I want everybody to briefly introduce themselves. We all know who everybody is, but what got you into this, number one, and I'm talking about the forbidden things on this planet. And I want to hear, and I want to get 7 different answers from everybody. What is the most important historic, prehistoric, megalithic, ancient site on this planet to you that nobody talks about and needs to be spoken about? And how are you, man?
I'm great, and hello everybody.
Robert Bauval, thank you so much. Robert, what got you into this? You know, you've had a normal kind of life, and here you've been doing this for so long now. What was there an epiphany? What got you into this?
Well, my life has been anything but normal, but well, what got me into this was a very precise moment in 1983. I was working in Saudi Arabia, and I decided to go and visit my mother in Egypt. She still lived there. And I took a little stop on the way to Alexandria from Cairo at the Antiquity Museum. And I entered the room 42, in case you're interested. And I saw a photograph of the Giza necropolis, the Giza pyramids from the air. And I saw that little offset of the third pyramid. And my life changed ever since. I decided to investigate, and 10 years later I published my first book, and the year later I met Graham, and the rest is history. And I'm here now talking to you.
It's absolutely just amazing, and you've woken us up to so many things.
I haven't said the site.
I was going to say, well, what is that site?
Well, obviously it's the Giza necropolis, but to me it's the Great Pyramid. It's the mother of all mysteries. And I think that monument is going to reveal something to us sooner or later. So that's, to me, that's the site.
So we got 2 go back. But when I walk around, everything now to me aligns with Orion, man. I see it now. You saw that. I'm not sure if that's going to be your answer, but when we look back and the evidence that is clear out there, that there is something that is being withheld from us, what is the best evidence of a lost civilization or high technology at 10,000 BC, which is the magic number that you help present to the world, right? So what is that best evidence?
I have to make a confession. I started my investigation long before I made the Orion correlation in 93. And that is when I went to work in Sudan in 77 with my wife. And I have to confess that one of my motives to get involved with this is that I was looking for evidence, but the evidence that to me would tip the whole event. I was looking for an extraterrestrial evidence. Now, I would be caught dead 10 years ago speaking about this, or hardly a few years ago, mainly because I've had so much trouble with Egyptologists, as you know, and particularly the man with the hat, Zahawat. And like Graham, I've had 30 years of, you name it. I mean, I've been called all sorts of things, ranging from charlatans and pseudoscientists and Zionist spy, and you know. So I kept behind, but I think that something happened around that date. The evidence as Giza is is overwhelming now. I got involved with architects and mathematicians. And frankly, it wasn't something that I wanted to get into, but they finally persuaded me to get into. The Great Pyramid is, I think we keep talking about how it was built and how they moved the stones, but to me now, my interest is who designed it.
Bingo, bingo, I'm so with you. I'm so with you.
It's a monument that's been designed by an unusual brain. And the more we get into it, as weird as it is, I threw a few hints this morning at my talk, but the more we get into it, the more it becomes bizarre. There are anomalies that really need to be explained. And what I'm trying to do is draw the heavyweights into investigating the possibility, and I say possibility rather than a fact, that we might have a contact at around that time, and I mean an ET contact. I'm coming out with this because it's just too much when you examine the design of these monuments.
And thank you, but I can't let you get away or stop right there. Is this a feeling, or is there something that you need to take this further with to suggest something as strong as that? Because we all want that, right? I mean, the whole planet would invite that.
Well, first I should say that I got more and more involved with this because I've contributed and co-authored a book with a astrobiologist, Professor Chandra Vikramat Singh. And he kind of persuaded me to look deeper into where we stand in science today. I didn't realize how outdated I was. I had to get into the cutting edge position of sciences, particularly physics, quantum mechanics, got into neuroscience, you name it. I've put myself in a position where I cannot anymore look at the past in the way I did before. And it's refreshing for me that at least one scientist is beginning to seriously consider the possibility of something happening of that kind. But I have to say, the evidence is at the moment purely mathematical. We haven't found anything physical that convinces me, but it's a start. It's a start, and I'm very excited about it because that's where I'm moving.
Wow. Did Robert just say he was coming out? Is that what he said? That's what.
Well,
is it? Graham, did you hear that? You heard that, right?
Robert Bauval has officially come out.
Yeah, he's Robert Bauval.
well, what I mean by that, don't get me wrong.
We understand, Robert. It's okay. It's okay.
There was a time when I'm sure Graham and I and many others in this field would not have mentioned the A words, Atlantis and alien.
The reason being that you don't want to give those skeptics and those archaeologists and those so-called scholars a stick to beat you with. You want to pick your battles and win your battles. That's that. It is a battle. This is a fight for human consciousness that's going on here.
If I could join in here, this is absolutely true. And Wes would get so frustrated with me, John Anthony West, when we were doing the early work, because I would not say things, I would not talk about things until I was absolutely sure. And he was so frustrated about trying to get, as he said, any kind of definitive statement out of me. But I'm in academia, and I knew how you can get attacked, and I was attacked anyway. And I absolutely, for years, refused to say the word Atlantis out loud, and I wouldn't do it in private either, much less public.
So you're coming out?
Am I coming out now too?
Yeah, so
I said the word
Robert Schuck
Atlantis.
has come out here tonight at Contact in the Desert. We have a couch later. We can just, consult. Do you feel better? Do you feel better?
Oh, yeah.
Look, he's smiling.
I don't know.
Paul, do you think that they're suppressing information when it comes to Egypt and Giza and certainly the ages of things, but do you think that they are sitting on knowledge that quite simply would upset all of Egyptology and the ship would sink? Is there stuff that's being suppressed?
No, I agree with Graham Hancock. It's not a bunch of people meeting in a room and smoking cigarettes and saying we're going to suppress this. And the problem is something rather odd, because I've been rather fortunate and unfortunate to meet some of the top guys in this field. Zahi Hawass, for one. I was mentored for a while by Sir Ivan Edwards. I met, we both met Mark Lehner and all the top guys in this field. In Egyptology, there are two examples that stick in my mind as bizarre. One of them is the famous discovery of the door by Rudolf Gantenbrink in '93. Now, here you have what is certainly one of the, if not the greatest monument on this planet. Anonymous, misunderstood, we have no idea who built it, why, and so forth. Great mystery. I call it the giant question mark. And here is in the Queen's Chamber, an opening that was discovered in 1872 that no one knew where it led. And it took 100 years for somebody like the German robotic engineer to even bother to have a look. And he found this door at the end of this shaft in 1993. We still don't know what's behind those doors. To me, I find this incredible lack of interest. I mean, an amazing lack of curiosity that I can't understand. That's one of them. As far as destruction, I got involved with one of the sites. You guys talk a lot about Göbekli Tepe. How do you pronounce it?
Göbekli Tepe. Well, there's my version, then there's Andrew Collins. Two different things.
I want to pronounce it like Colin.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's fun. But there's another site that has not grabbed so much attention, which is Nabta Playa. I wrote a book about this, which is the Black
One of the great sites, an ancient old lake off of the Nile, 70 miles, right?
Well, it was dubbed the oldest astronomical
circle.
megalithic. Well, megalithic is a big word, it's not such large stones,
No.
but yes, an astronomical circle with star alignments, with solar alignments, dating, carbon dated, as a matter of fact, to 9000 BC. We even suspect all the dates. Now, unbelievably, in 1978, Zahi Hawass, with a team of people from the Nubian Museum, decided to move this stone.
They moved Nabta Playa? I didn't know that.
took
So the
away-
state, wait. I want to understand. Does anybody know about Nabta Playa? Okay, that's why you're listening here. Take a little note and go and check it out. I always wondered how, after all of this time, that they could, because the stones are small,
Well,
right?
yeah, the stones-
So are you suggesting that Zahi moved them and repositioned?
No, I'm not suggesting he did.
I quit. I'm done.
No. The stones by themselves are meaningless. It's the alignments. And you don't want to tamper. This site was untouched for thousands of years. It was discovered in 1964, if I remember well, by a team of Americans, by the way. But it was untouched. And luckily, they actually did maps and drawings, so we have this. But to move this site away, they brought it to the Nubian Museum. They completely dislodged the meaning of it.
Somebody should be in jail for that.
I complained to UNESCO. So you have this kind of bizarre people that I don't understand, and I've been involved with them for 30 years. There is something wrong with, certainly with Egyptology. I'll give you another example, is when Rudolf Gantenbrink found the door. One of the big problems when we announced this in the newspapers is that Egyptologists began to quibble among themselves. When we called it a door, they said you can't call it a door. So okay, we'll call it a slab with handles. They said you can't call it a slab. So we said we'll call it a portcullis because you can't call it portcullis. Finally, Rudolf Gantenbrink said to me, I'll never forget this, he said, I'm going to call it the thing. Because we're going to spend years quibbling about this kind of nonsense. It's a very strange profession. It's a kind of strange ivory. So, I've decided that's it. I'm leaving them behind. I'm moving ahead. You just can't deal with this kind of... I've had an example with a famous
Yeah, thank you for that, Robert.
No,
Just come out again. No, keep going. I want you to
just
let it
one
out.
more for you to
Yes.
understand the kind of people we're dealing with. And I'm not talking about Zahi Hawass here. Is Professor Steidelmann, Professor Rainer Steidelmann. He was the head of the German Archaeological Institute in Cairo. And he was responsible for the work done by Rudolf Gantenbrink. we were called by the, at the time, the head of the Antiquities, Mohammed Nuruddin, and we're in his office. I was with BBC people, and Rainer Steinman walked in, and the BBC representative thought, okay, well, why not? I'll ask him, what do you think is behind the door? And Rainer Steinman said, there is nothing behind the door. So we all stood quiet. And then I said to the BBC man, ask him, how does he know? And he said, well, excuse me, Dr. Steinman, how do you know? And you should have seen what this guy, I mean, he stood up, he was upset, you could see his eyes popping out, and he said, because I'm Dr. Rainer Steinman, I know. And to me, I faced this kind of bizarre dogma that I didn't think existed. So there is a problem. I don't think there's a conspiracy, but there is a problem. And we really have to confront this.
You know, when Gatenbrink's door first kicked off, and I would, you know, this is 20, like you said, 93, 94, the internet had just started. There was like this little website called Gatenbrink's Door with these little pictures and the story behind it. And all I kept thinking to myself was, here it is. We have answers. There's something behind there. They're going to do this. I can't wait. I don't know how, you know, it was like we have something here. And then, like you said, it just went away.
A door inside the Great Pyramid.
A door inside the shaft in the Great Pyramid.
Undiscovered, unknown for at least 5,000 years. You'd think that should be curious to find out what's
There's a
behind
reason it was put there. That's the point.
Anyway,
Right?
Yeah, well, there you are. So there is a problem. I don't think there's a conspiracy. No, I don't believe that. But there is a problem. And really, it's time for them to move away, because Egyptologists are not the kind of they're not the people to study these monuments. We're dealing with engineering, we're dealing with mathematics, as I'll talk in one of my talks, I think on Monday. We're dealing with astronomy. These are the people that we need to bring in, and they're kind of closing the door. They're even closing the door to geology. Something has to be done.
JJ.
We, you know, today, 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago, we, as a human race, have the same questions. We've managed to work out a lot of things. We've learned a lot about the cosmos. We've learned about physics, biology. We've got aeroplanes. We've landed on the moon, but we haven't tackled the fundamental questions. You know, basically, where do we come from? What are we supposed to do on this planet? Who are we? And what happens to us when we die? I think these fundamental questions have been ignored for quite a long time. And what interests me with especially the ancient Egyptian culture is that it seems to have been the focus of their attention. They were very into trying to deal with these questions. And what we see is a legacy of this. So to me, trying to understand the past and discovering ancient cultures is the great possibility that some of these questions were tackled, and they seem to let, especially the Giza necropolis. I mean, we keep saying this, but this is an enormous project that demanded the highest of motives, and they tell us, in no uncertain terms, at least in the pyramid text, that they knew what happened to us after death. And I think this is the thing that intrigues me with the past and the ancient Egyptians. We've forgotten to ask the questions. We don't ask the questions anymore. And
We don't. Thank you for that. We just don't. Robert Bauval, Doctors JJ and Desiree Hertog, Carl Elberger, and Dr. Robert Schock. On your feet, thank you so much. Give it